Today I'm going to be talking about a Bible verse that just keeps popping back up into my mind with all of the things happening with the coronavirus. I'm going to read it and then I'm going to talk about what I think about it. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank Him for all He has done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. So, the thing that stands out to me most about this verse, and I think I learned this from Brant Hansen. I'm not quite sure about that, but Brant Hansen is a radio show host, and he has a podcast with Sherry. It's called the Brant and Sherry Oddcast. Highly recommend it. But the part that says, the peace that transcends all understanding. It exceeds anything we can understand. So, what that means to me is it doesn't make any sense that we would have peace, but we do, because the peace of God transcends all understanding. The peace of the world, just the worldly things, worldly peace, that can transcend all understanding, because it's understandable if you have peace, if your life's going great, if you have nothing to worry about, you're not hurting, you have got great relationships, you're great financially, everything's great in your life. It makes sense why you would have peace. When it doesn't make sense when you would have peace is when you have a lot of things to worry about, when you're sick, when you're hurting, when you don't have good relationships, or there's a lot of things going on the news that are making you anxious. It doesn't make sense to have peace in those moments, because worldly peace comes from having everything in your world aligned and peaceful. But that's not what he's talking about here. He's talking about the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. It means that you are in peace even if the worst happens to you. It's not you're in peace if the worst does not happen to you. It's even if the worst does happen to you, you will still be in peace, because you have the peace of God, which transcends all understanding. I'm going to go ahead into the next paragraph. Now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true, what is honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable, and think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. So, if you think about it, he's pretty much, it sounds like he's giving us instructions. Keep your mind on things that are true, honorable, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and worthy in praise. And keep doing everything that you have learned to do, and the peace of God will be with you. And again, that's talking about the peace of God that transcends all understanding. It doesn't make any sense for the world to be peaceful right now, like for people to just feel peace. It doesn't make sense logically. But when you put God into the mix, it makes all the sense. Because why wouldn't you be at peace? Because you're not in control anyway. And that's actually something else I heard Brant and Sherry talking about today on the podcast they put out today. I think my mom's about to come in. Hi! I'm making a YouTube video, that's why you can't open the door. But basically they were saying, when you live in a culture that's as affluent as we are in America, and other countries similar to that, you start to develop this false sense of that we're in control. he wasn't talking about what I'm about to say is not what he was saying in the podcast today, but I'm adding on to it. We tend to have this thing that we think we're just really smart and really capable of doing so many great things, and we're so much better than the past civilizations because we're so more affluent than the past civilizations have been. And that gives us a false sense of control. And because of that, when something bad does happen, a lot of times we don't know how to deal with it because we haven't really had to worry about the things that past civilizations have worried about. And I think that's a really big reason of why it's becoming, it used to be that more people were Christian, and less weren't, and it's switching, and I think the reason for that is people have a false sense of that we're in control as humans until something like this happens, or someone develops an illness, or somebody loses a family member, or loses their job, or whatever, and then it hits them that they're not in control. And that's a horrible place to be if you don't have the peace of God that transcends all understanding. But if you do, it's a great place to be. And that sounds weird, but for me, personally, I'm trying to use this situation to grow as much as I can. And that's not just in this negative situation that I'm doing that. I have not always been that way, but after I developed severe chronic illness, I had to learn how to suffer well. And I can tell you, the best way to do that is to hold on to that peace that doesn't make sense. The peace that doesn't make sense for you to have in that situation. So when both of my knees are dislocated, and I'm on the floor because I can't get up because I'm dizzy, and I need my boyfriend to pick me up and put me on the couch and then fix my knees, and I start to convulse because I'm passing out, it doesn't make sense for me to have peace in that moment. Or the time when I went to Stanford and I had to swallow like a computer, like a robot pill, and it was so big that I choked, and there was like no air going through, and they had to do the Heimlich, I think that's how you say it, Heimlich, on me. It was the strangest thing because I was choking, and the nurse is pushing on my stomach, and she tells my mom, go out in the hall and yell 911 so that they can help us. This is at Stanford. And I have no air coming through, and I'm thinking, I just immediately start praying, and right after that, I'm like thinking in my head, God's not gonna let me die. God's gonna take care of me. And even if I did die, I wouldn't have anything to worry about because then I'd be with God anyway. But I know that He's not gonna let me die until it's my time. And again, sometimes people do die and we don't understand why. But that also goes back to the peace that transcends all understanding. It exceeds all understanding of why we should be at peace if we just lost a loved one, or we're losing our life, of why we would be in peace. It doesn't make sense until you know that the God of the universe is the one who's in control, and He has bigger plans for us. In this world, we will suffer. Jesus talked about that. Jesus himself suffered in this world, because in this world that we're in, we have disease, we have illness, we have loss, we have pain, we have hardships, we sometimes feel hopeless, and we feel scared and angry. But that doesn't mean that God's not with us. What he does is he brings his kingdom to us amidst all of that chaos. And that's where that peace comes from. You can't get that peace anywhere else, because in this world you will have trouble, is what Jesus said. In this world you will have trouble. But God is focused on something bigger than this world. He wants us back. We're here because unfortunately it's not our time yet, and we're here because we're sinners, and the trials that we go through here are not going to compare with the glory in heaven. That's a Bible verse, and I did not quote it correctly, and I can't tell you where it's from, but I remember the general idea. So I guess I just want everyone to try to keep that in mind. And this is a really great time for people who are believers to speak about these things, because I truly believe that God is going to use this